Hello, I am J.E. Dyer. I'll be reading an excerpt from my novel manuscript, This Bitter Earth. Billowing cumulus clouds sailed in a blue sky beyond the reach of the Appalachian Piedmonts. Their gentle undulations framed the busy West Virginia highway in whispering blankets of green. Bud fields loped on the shoulder of an unmarked access road parallel to Interstate 79 South. 18-wheelers thundered past him, conjuring a breeze and brief respite from the summer heat. On his side of the guardrail, bulrushes grew and puddled water at the foot of a bald knob. Farther up the hill, robins pecked at plump blackberries from their perches atop the thorny canes. So few lived out this holler that no one bothered to name the road. 7, maybe 8 homes when last Bud roamed this way. Well, everyone called him Bud or Buddy in those days. He'd never taken to his given name, Delmar Roscoe Fields, Jr. He hitched his canvas duffel bag higher on a bony shoulder and padded through the loose gravel and bits of blacktop toward home. 30 years is a long time. They may not even live there anymore. Bud ambled past a concrete tunnel that once served as the sole access point for folks on this side of the highway to the McWhorter post office and the rest of the hamlet. He bent over and peered down the tunnel's length as more traffic sped past overhead. The gravel road on the far side acquired more potholes, but was no worse for wear. A glint of daylight caught his eye. Bud traced it to one of several beer bottles laying in the weeds. He picked it up and tilted its dregs or perhaps rainwater into the sunlight. His hand tightened and released around the tinted glass. He dropped it to the ground. That was a part of what got me into the clink in the first place. Bud followed the road, which had now turned from blacktop to pitted gravel. It snaked between the painted pipework that had served as a fence for a long-forgotten gas well and over a lone knoll. Time for new beginnings. He stopped at the next to last home on the right and dropped his duffel bag onto the gravel driveway. Home wasn't home any longer. The basketball hoop at the bottom of the gravel drive with its backboard made from old barnwood had long since departed. The weeds out front were so high they hid the square of concrete and cinder block that served as the front porch. Bud inched closer to the 2-car garage leading onto the single-story home. The concrete on its front lip was cracked and worn. The once white door now wore patches of umber rust and dents the size of large rocks. The waist-high grass hissed against his jeans as he waded through a pair of windows on the home's front facade. Holes and cracks like spiderwebs adorned both panes. He leaned closer and peered through the dirty glass. The old living room. That was until his folks had the addition built on while he was in high school. A smile accompanied some warm tears. He used to sit right there on the floor in front of that old TV and watch one of 3 channels that we got on her. Bud looked up to the upper half of the wall on the room's left. He'd helped his dad hang those stones. A chuckle. Took us a better part of 2 weeks. He ambled around the property. Towering wild cherry trees still stood at the right side of the house. Their branches now grew into the sagging gutter and over a warped roof. The old cable and landline phone wires sagged from a telephone pole across the road and terminated in a leaning section of steel pipe jutting from the shingles, where it had always been. Ain't like I remembered it. Bud returned to the driveway. The groan of a screen door popped open, then closed behind him from the house across the road. A stout woman stepped to the edge of her concrete porch as she shooed a chihuahua into the groomed lawn. Go on. The cigarette between her lips wagged. She side-eyed Bud and lit her smoke. He stopped at the end of the driveway and dropped his duffel bag to the ground, letting his white undershirt flap in the wind. Morning. Was wondering if I could ask you something real quick. The woman released a cloud of smoke into the breeze and kicked up by the interstate traffic a stone's throw away from her porch. All right. Name's Bud Fields. I grew up in that house. He poked a thumb over his shoulder. Thought you might know what happened to my mom. Evelyn Fields? Fields. The woman mulled the surname over like it was a fine morsel of filet mignon. Might have lived here before our time, honey. She flicked a cigarette ash into the gravel beneath her bare feet. The last lady who lived there was a caretaker in an old folks' home up in Clarksburg, I think. She patted the side of her shorts and called her dog inside. Went into default a few years back. Nobody ever came back after. She aimed her hand like a gun at his childhood home. Somebody ought to get their sorry asses over there and clean up that yard at least. She took another drag off her smoke and narrowed her stare on his face. Sometimes it's best to leave the past alone. Yes, ma'am. He heaved his duffel onto his shoulder. I appreciate the information. He stared back down the hollow road. Take care. He ventured all the way from the North Branch prison outside of Cresaptown, thumbed a ride on an F-150 from a fellow hauling timber to the customer's house on the other side of Cumberland. From there, Bud hitched a lift in 2 different rigs to the truck stop in Jane Lou. All this time and a face full of grit and exhaust to find emptiness, decay, abandonment.